So we're gonna jump straight into preparing sourdough because it's going to be a long video since I'll be showing you the preparation and also the baking process. The night before, I had prepared all of my dried ingredients. So Wednesday night, I'm mixing and preparing the dough Thursday morning. It was October 30th, and my son woke up a little earlier. It was 6:30 by this time. And I already had about 22 loaves mixing in my mixer in here. While I rest, I go drop off my kids at school. So I'm back. It's been a busy morning. We had to send our kids to school, make lunch, so that way when my son comes back from preschool, everything is ready and I don't have to be stressing on what to cook. I already mixed all of my sourdough. So I have, I'm gonna only be making 3 types. So it'll be plain, everything bagel, everything bagel seasoning, and also roasted garlic and rosemary. So I have the 3 batches going already. I mixed the dough as a bulk and then separated the weight based on the amount of loaves that I need. So now we're gonna do bagels. I don't wash the machine because I just mix the plain sourdough, and now I'm gonna do the bagels, which pretty much is the same type of dough except that I'm adding honey to this batch. So that's the only difference. There's no cross-contamination. And once I take it off, once I mix the bagels, I'll be making the English muffins, which is contains dairy. That's when I'll wash the machine if I'm going to do something else that doesn't require dairy. So always be mindful in the order of when you can mix certain things. That way you don't have to be washing the machine back and forth and creating more chaos and spending a lot of time on cleaning. So I'm gonna do the bagels. I have my sourdough starter here. It smells lovely. I always say sourdough starter smells like roses, and my husband agrees. When you have a healthy sourdough starter, essentially it smells yeasty. It shouldn't smell acidic. So, and also kind of sweet, which I think where all of this rosiness smell comes from, the scent. But yeah, I'm gonna be making bagels. I already separated out the dough, not the dough, the flour last night. So I only need to do the sugar, well, the honey in this case, and the salt and water. So I have all of the flour separated out by category. I have the scones, cinnamon rolls, and English muffins. Most likely I won't get to the cinnamon rolls today because I have to prepare more sourdough starter. I was a little bit short last night, so I'm gonna multiply it using my sourdough starter. I only keep 10 grams of sourdough starter. I want to call this one my mother starter because from here I take out the excess and only keep 10 grams. Usually I have like around almost like 70, sometimes 80 grams of sourdough starter, and from here I'll multiply it to probably get another 200. From that 200 I will mix to get another like 4 to 2,000. All depends on your feeding ratio. I normally have been doing 5, but I noticed my starter was becoming a little acidic, and how I noticed is because of the smell. This one is not as acidic. I have a test going on. I have a 1:5:5 ratio and a 1:3:3 ratio. And based on my environment and the temperature and the ambient temperature, my starter does the best with a 1:3:3 ratio. So it smells sweeter. It doesn't smell acidic. So because I'm doing a 1:3:3 ratio now, it means that if I want to have a lot of starter, I'll need a lot of a base starter to start with. So just a little FYI there of my starter process and what I need to do. So now I'm gonna get the bagels going. I just need to find the recipe. I don't ever go off top of my head because sometimes I can mix things. So I always like to write it in a notepad and then I put it in front of me as the things that I need to mix. So I need 600 grams of starter. have a container here already. And from here, from this starter, I'm sure I'm gonna be able to get bagels and also English muffins. Because I have almost like 2,000 grams, and I need 1,200 grams for English muffins and 600 grams for bagels. So that's 1,800. Look how lovely. Oops. All right. There you go. So I'm a little bit over by 32 grams. Not too bad in there, not too bad. So now I'm gonna add the honey. And I like to mix this in the container before I add it to the spiral mixer. I feel like it mixes better. Now we're gonna mix it again. So if you want to save a lot of time when you do this, make sure you weigh out all of the ingredients the night before, or at least 12 hours before your mixing or your dough prep day, so your day goes smoother. So I just need to measure the salt, which takes me like 30 seconds to do that. So I'm gonna let it mix for about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and I'll be back. Alrighty, I'm back with the salt. It hasn't even finished mixing. Once it's fully incorporated, I'll take it out and put it in the tub where I had the flour. And then I'll start doing stretch and folds I even do stretch and folds for bagels. So once it's out, I'll start mixing English muffins and hopefully get to do one stretch and fold before I head out to a quick appointment and pick up my son from preschool. So there's a lot of running. Alrighty, so the bagel dough is ready. It did warm up quite a bit because it was mixing for roughly 8 to 10 minutes. So I always try not to break the dough when I take it out. Look at this beauty. So I placed it on the tray. I'm going to let it rest for about 30 minutes before I make its first stretch and fold. I have the mixture ready for the English muffins, so I'm going to add it right away so I can get going faster. Alrighty, we're back. So now I'm going to add the ingredients. Always make sure you scrape your bowl really well, especially when you use honey. Honey usually tends to stick to the bottom. Alrighty. So now I'm gonna give this machine a break. And I'll be back around an hour. I'm out of breath. So it's been an hour and a half since I last touched my dough. I returned from our appointments and our to-dos things. And I wanted to show you the dough. From here on, I'll only be doing stretch and folds. I think I'll do one more. And then I'll start organizing my baking area. Hi, baby. Good job. My baking area / playroom, because we're gonna have a fridge delivered today. We're invested in the fridge because I've been receiving a little more orders than I expected, which is a good thing. But we have very little fridge space. We only have one fridge, and we do have a small fridge in our garage as well. But it's not the best one because it's small and it has a lot of like drawers and it's hard to put your dough. Plus, it doesn't hold much dough because I like my process now is that I mix my bagel dough and my English muffin dough, and then I let it rise probably 50%, and then I put it in the small fridge. It'll utilize this entire fridge because it's so small, and it doesn't stay as cool. So the dough usually continues to rise more than a normal fridge. So that's why we invested in a larger fridge. And we're gonna have to put it in some place in the playroom. Most likely where my hand is, right there. So I have to do a lot of cleaning. So it's nothing fun that I would like to show you. But behind camera, that's what I'll be doing. So I'll be back in a few hours. But let me show you first the dough. It's looking beautiful. So here's my dough. By the way, I'm wearing a belly belt today because I've been having some flare-ups with my back, so I want to make sure I have some extra support whenever I'm doing something. So I wash my hands. Don't worry, behind camera, I wash my hands. Yes, baby. Look how beautiful. I don't know the song, mi amor. Mommy, can you give me 2 minutes? Okay. So it's looking beautiful. The dough temperature when I took it out of the mixer was 72. I don't like candy, thank you. And then I do on the sides. Look how jiggly and beautiful. So that was the last stretch and fold. Let me just get all of the dough from the side. And then I'll mix the dough for my everything bagel. And in here I have my rosemary and garlic. So I'll be back in a few hours after I do a major cleaning because there's not much activity going on from here. So we're back and it's roughly 4 p.m. and my dough was ready to be shaped. I already had all of my bannetons ready, lined with napkin. I love to use napkin because it's disposable. You just throw it away. You don't need to be washing any like cheesecloths or any of that. I like to shape my loaves 900 grams, and I do quite a bit of tight shaping because I like to do. I think it's called a catty clap shaping, like the final shaping when you put it in the bannetons and then place it in the fridge. And again, I always start with a classic sourdough and then move up to any of the inclusions such as rosemary and garlic. And then lastly, I would do that everything but the bagel. And look at the dough. It had lots of bubbles, so I had a great fermentation. I think I was close to overproofing, but it worked out totally fine. I wasn't nervous at all. What I need to work on is when I shape them, I need to put them closer to each other because I was noticing that they spread out as I gave it a 20-minute to relax, but they relax too much. So this is a way I like to shape them. For some reason, I like to use my palms, or I guess the area next to my thumbs. I don't know what it's called. Because if I use my fingers, I'm not sure because because I have very soft hands, but the dough sticks a lot. It doesn't matter how much hydration my dough has. Of course, if it's a bagel, it won't stick as much. But whenever it comes to sourdough, it doesn't matter the hydration. It always sticks to my fingers, just my fingers, and it's annoying. So I like to use the palm of my hands again. Sourdough is very relaxing. Well, at least in my case, I don't know, it's like therapeutic. I love it. Besides that, I have a lot of back problems. I always try to modify things here and there that'll make my day easier. In my case, it doesn't matter how prepared I am, I always have to take it easy because then I I don't start to feel my legs. I lose sensation on my legs. I get stomach aches, kind of like labor like pains. It's like contractions. It's bizarre, but that's what I have to deal with pretty much every single day because of my spinal cord tumor. And it also has been a big change and adjustment since farmers market because I used to bake so much more bread and other baked goods, and now I'm doing the bread stand, so it's kind of been a little hard to bake less than what I'm used to. I always feel like something is off and or that I should be baking more. I always have that thought for some reason. And I don't think I mentioned in any of my videos, but I've been doing sourdough for about 4 years. And I decided to fully go in and take a risk by doing farmers market this year of 2024. I'm sorry, 2025. We started in June, and I had the only thing that I had was two baking trays. That's it. Two baking trays. I had nothing else. It's funny now that I think about it. But I what I used to do is open bake. So I would do open bake method in my electric oven, which worked great. Oh gosh, I'm still remember those days. But we barely slept. But when I say we, I was very lucky that my husband was helping me out a lot. Um, because he had a lot of vacation days off, so he was using taking days off every Friday and helping me out. And everyone in my family thought I was crazy. Yes, everyone doubted me, but not my husband. My husband was like, "Do it, even if it doesn't work out. I want you to be happy. I want you to have something to do, and overall, like experience things to see what it's out there." Because I had quit my corporate job in 2024, so I had some time in my hands. Besides that, I have two kids, a 7 and a 3 year old. So I'm always busy with them, anyways. But I also wanted to help out my family by somehow bringing some income by doing something that I enjoy a lot. And I'm very thankful that my husband was very supportive from day one. But yeah, I had a lot of people who doubted me because I'm also, I guess if you want to say, I'm a first generation baker. No one in my family bakes. No one in my family knows about sourdough. Uh, and I was the one to introduce sourdough. And honestly, from the very beginning, I had a feeling that things were gonna work out for the best and for the greatest. I'm not lying. I had a great feeling. It's just that I was really nervous because again I had zero equipment beside baking trays. That's why it really took a toll on my body. Besides the health problems that I have, we were barely sleeping. I was very thankful that my mother-in-law was taking my kids every weekend so we can pretty much work. We were zombies from Wednesday up until even Sunday because Sunday was like our recovery day because farmers market was on Saturdays. And yeah, we barely slept from June up until the market ended, which was mid-October. So we had busy life, and we had great success doing farmers market even though it was our first time. And all of the income revenue that we made, we really invested back into our business. We got a mixer, which pretty much was brand new, but we got a great deal on Marketplace, the spiral mixer that we got. We got the oven, we got the trays, we got the rack, we got more bannetons. We even lately got the stainless steel table that I'm working on, and recently a fridge as well. So we fully invested back into our business. But going back to sourdough, look at how beautiful the dough is. I like to cover them with plastic film so it doesn't dry out. And here I'll be showing you how I like to do my everything but the bagel. I do the same shaping method, and then I just have a flat plate with all of the the everything bagel seasoning, and then I just roll it back and forth or side to side. And I barely use flour, and even if I use flour, I just like wipe it off again, just that it gives me a very light like non-stick coating sort of feel. But yeah, I barely use any flour, and you don't want to use flour at all, I would say, when you want to do some seeds or even seasonings, because they won't stick. Then you have to spray it with water, which is more work, more tedious, more messy, and you don't want that. You want to save time. So that's why I barely use flour in this case. And again, look at my method. I use the very palm of my hands. When you roll it into the seasonings, you want to be a little bit quick by placing it into the bannetons, because then the dough wants to spread out again. So try to do it a little bit quicker, and then I go back and stitch if needed. Kind of stitching, but putting the lips together. That's what I like to call it and do. So it's the next day. It's Friday. It's 5 in the morning. For some reason, I wasn't able to sleep. I feel like I only slept like 4 hours that night. So we're gonna get started with shaping the bagels and then the English muffins. I also wanted to wake up a little early because it's Halloween, and I wanted to try my very best to be done baking so we can take our kids out somewhere. But yeah, I already finished shaping all of the bagels. Now I'm here shaping the English muffins. Again, I do 80 grams for the English muffins. I line them with plastic, sprinkle with some flour. And I had 2 trays of English muffins to do. And hopefully it goes by quick. So the dough I showed you earlier that I was shaping is actually the bagels. And these are the English muffins. Again, I should be making less of these because I do have a lot left over after I close the stand, which they never go to waste. I always give it away to family. But I mean, if I could make less, I will save some time for myself so I can rest. I have even donated to first responders, to or anyone in need in my local community. I do post to Facebook pages whenever I have something left, and at no cost. So I donate to people in need. And that's the beauty, I guess, of sourdough as well. Making your own things from scratch is that nothing will go to waste. There will always be someone who will take all of your baked goods. In this video, I used I use the scissors a lot to cut the dough, which is what I'm used to for some reason. But I had this video waiting to be edited for weeks. I think it's November 20th already, the day that I'm editing, so almost a month. But I learned to use a scraper to cut my dough, a metal one. So it has become easier to do it that way because I cut long strips of dough and then just start cutting like squares, and it's easier instead of cutting by scissor every single piece. So I've changed my I guess preparation a bit in there, and it has made my day a little smoother for sure. And then here now we're giving them a shape. I do shape with both of my hands. They do go the opposite way, I think. Yeah, one of the hand goes counterclockwise and the other one clockwise. I'm a righty, so whenever I roll the dough with my left hand, I'll still roll it once or twice again with my right hand, so it gives it a little more tension. While I was shaping the English muffins, I had my oven already on, and it was preheating so I can load my first batch of sourdough. And this time I might make another batch of sourdough because I think we finally fixed our oven. So here I'm reading the temperature of the stones to make sure they are stable and more in line to what they should be. So when I bake my sourdough, I'm loading it currently when the temperature is 450. So right off the bat, it's a little higher, so I had to let it cool down a little bit. I probably left the door open for 10 minutes. Then I loaded the bread, and the only thing we did was to adjust the door seam because the heat was escaping. It was too big. So the first batches thing, for some reason, I wasn't able to capture that on camera. But this is how the bread looks so far. I did allow it 10 minutes to cool, the stones to cool, so it doesn't shock the bread. But I'm crossing my fingers that this batch turns out great as well. Last week I did prepare another batch in here, and it turned out great. So I'm very hopeful that the oven is finally fixed again because we adjusted the door seam. So my racks, each rack is at 425 roughly for the temperature. This is very high. And also the steam stone, I set it at 505. And I noticed that by minute 20, I saw the expansion. And then at that time is when I released the steam. And I felt that it took some time for that to happen. So because it has been weeks since I did this, I now increase my baking temperature. Now I load my bread when the temp is roughly at 470 instead of 460 or even 480. That way the bread bakes a little bit faster without shocking it, and it has worked way better for sure. So the first load is finally done. I don't like to do the loaves too dark because that's not what my customers prefer. We do like some color. Even I personally like some color, but not too dark because my kids also enjoy sourdough, but sometimes it can be hard to take a bite. It can actually hurt your gums. So yeah, we do like a little crispy, but not too much. And as you probably can tell, most of my videos I do voiceover because of two things. I have two kids who are always making noise in the background, and also it's best for me to gather my thoughts after the video, as there's a lot of things going on, and if I try to talk and record at the same time, it can cause distractions. I might forget certain things and whatnot. So to avoid that, I like to do a voiceover, and occasionally I will do talk in the video. So we're on to load the second batch, and the stones, as you can tell, was like 400, I think. Yeah, 400. So I'm pretty sure I waited for the stones to warm up again, since the first batch pretty much absorb a lot of heat. That stones do drop quite a lot. But look at the beauties. I was very happy how they turned out. I do need to I guess score a little better from side to side. I noticed that when I score from one end to the other, the expansion is better, the ear is better. So I just need to practice on that a little bit. But other than that, they came out beautiful. So I'm quite happy with the oven. Honestly, it was a major stressor because we invested so much, not just time, but also money. And it wasn't working out. We tried every single thing. We were working with the company that we got it from, but nothing was working out. I was even changing my recipes because they were thinking it was my dough and things like that. So I felt like I was learning sourdough all over again. But in reality, it wasn't me, it was the oven. So after almost 2 months, I finally see the light. I finally have a successful bake without the bread sealing prematurely or setting across prematurely. So here goes my second batch. And I'm baking 9 this time. My current max baking, especially for sourdough, is 22 loaves. I 22 to 24. I'm not at a capacity or demand to be baking like hundreds of loaves a week. Plus, I don't see myself doing that because I do offer more than just sourdough. I like to offer more options. So I do English muffins, bagels, cinnamon rolls, scones, biscottis. What else? I just started experimenting with cookies. So that has been going pretty well. And honestly, I'm not a cookie fan, but my kids love it. Customers love it. So, and it's a way to make extra money. So why not? I also offer sandwich bread. So there's quite a bit of options. So that's why I'm not fully focused on exclusively making only sourdough bread. But yeah, going back to the sourdough baking, the batch was looking great still. And I'm not sure whether it's just me, but every time I do the everything but the bagel seasoning, the seedlings kind of get a little too dark. I don't know, and then the house starts to smell like something burnt, but it's not burnt. But that's the final load. Everything came out beautifully. So the next project is actually start doing the English muffins. Remember, we started these pretty early. We started shaping them around 5:36 a.m. So, and the dough was very cold, so they were rising or pretty much coming back to room temperature and then rising. And I normally do them in the Blackstone, but to be honest, it's a little cold outside, and I didn't want to be dealing with going outside, and then my toddler was around, so I wanted to make sure I was able to keep an eye on him. So I decided to bake them in my forno oven with a double tray. So I'll place the English muffins in the tray with a lot of cornmeal and then cover it with another tray. And in this case, it's a little tricky because first, that's another thing that I was having issues with this oven is the stones are not flat. They have a bevel. And whenever you use a tray, the tray is dancing around because it doesn't stay flat. And only the middle part of the tray gets a nice color in the bottom. So the English muffins get a nice color in the bottom only if they're in the middle of the tray. Anything that is on the sides of the tray, they don't get much color because they don't have direct contact with the stone. But I reached out to the company. They're supposed to be sending me a replacement soon. And then, well, I sprinkle the English muffins again with cornmeal. That way, when I flip them over, they have that cornmeal so they don't burn or they don't stick to the tray. So the English muffins are out. I bake them for 7 minutes on each side, and all of the dials are set to 410 Fahrenheit, which is a little bit hot, but they're covered with the tray, and also since they're being baked in the tray, they don't get too dark quickly. So we're moving to bagels, which is my new favorite thing to do, prepare, cook, bake, you name it. They are so delicious. My entire family has been loving it. My husband, it's one of his favorite things that I bake. But this is what I have baked so far. I already made cinnamon rolls. I baked them, English muffins, all of the bagels. I wasn't able to record much of the process because I was trying to multitask, and it can be a little bit stressful. But they came out so airy, so soft, and they have a perfect bite. I really love to see this cooling rack full of baked goods. Look at the everything but the bagel sourdough. Besides the classic sourdough, this one is my second bestseller when it comes to sourdough. And lastly, I made 4 sandwich loaves. Lastly, we'll be making cookies. I'll probably bake 2 dozens, not much, but I already had these cookies prepared during the week and then I froze them. They do great and saves you a lot of time on bake day. Oh gosh, it's been a day that this hairnet's not holding my hair in place. But the oven, I had to open it a little bit so it cools down for the cookies. But I still have scones to prepare and bake. to be honest, I'm procrastinating because I'm a little tired and I have to start everything from scratch. I usually, by this time or the day before is when I make them. I don't do them the same day because it can be very time consuming, especially if I'm making more than 30 scones. Yeah, but that's the plan. We have to make them from scratch after I bake the cookies. And I made more sourdough. Yes, so I have about 20 loaves ready to be shaped probably in the next 30 to 40 minutes. I know, but I haven't talked much about my oven behind because I've been in the testing phase for about 2 months now. It's been very draining, but I think we're almost there, I think. That's why I said the sourdough is the star of the show, because it came out beautifully. Well, for the past 2 weeks, they have been way better, and it's because one thing we have done different with the oven, and that is that we adjusted the door seam, which retains all of the heat and steam. So the issue that I was having is that all of my bread was sealing or setting across prematurely, which it shouldn't happen. So that's why I haven't talked about the oven behind at all until now, which is why I'm making more sourdough to test the same thing in that, well, the same diets and settings that I've been baking for the past 2 weeks, just to make sure and confirm that it's working as it should, because it hasn't. But anyways, we gotta bake the cookies and make scones in shaped sourdough. It's Alexa, what time is it?
The time is 6:34 p.m.
It's 6:34 p.m. on Halloween day. Sadly, I couldn't go with my kids, but my mother-in-law and my husband took them. I feel guilty, but also not much, because they already went to multiple Halloween events with me during this week and even at school. So mom guilt, it's somewhere in there. Alrighty, so less talking and more doing. Things were moving quickly, so I wasn't able to record, but I did the 20 loaves. I made it with inclusions with cheese and everything but the bagel seasoning, and it came out great. It's, I think, my husband's new favorite because I made it with some red pepper. It's Saturday morning. We're putting out the stand, and in order to prevent condensation, what I like to do is I like to package all of the bread and put in the bags, but I don't seal it. I bring it outside so the bread acclimates to the outside temperature and it prevents condensation completely. The stand is ready, and as you know, I work really hard baking all of these goods, so I'm excited to have it open. And the video is coming to an end, so if you have any questions in regards to my process, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you so much for sticking around, and see you next time.